So I found this on the ground. Let's turn this into a legitimate bait. And I don't know what the person was really thinking. I know that they sell things like this at the store, but this is definitely homemade, and I'm gonna take it apart and make it into an actual lure. Stay tuned. We'll start with a 3-inch piece of balsa, and we got the general shape drawn out. So we're going to liberate this propeller, the beads, and the split shot from this horrible homemade rig. And we're going to make a propeller bait out of balsa. I drew a center line, and now I'll cut down there, and we'll have a slot for the wire. So with the center line cut, I'm going to measure out enough wire to make a rear hook hanger, belly hook hanger, and then the line tie, of course. And I'm going to measure about 1.5, maybe 2 lengths of bait for the wire. That way I have enough. And a good way to figure that out is line it up in the bait itself. So I created that loop and then added the beads and the propeller to the back, but that sits off of there pretty far. So I'll probably only use 2 of the beads, and we'll see how that'll look. Probably be a little bit tighter to the body. There we go. That's a lot better. I measured up the wire bends, and this is how it will look inside the bait. I'll cut the balsa down to size after I put the wire in, and also we'll find the best places to put the weight. I know that with these propellers, they add a lot of weight. Plastic beads, not as much as if you were to use metal. And typically I like to put a little bit of weight here in the chin, right in front of the front hook hanger, to just balance it out and make it lay on the surface flat. Let's drill some holes for lead. And as you can see, I used that split shot from the rig, and then I took one of my own, I flattened it out to put it in the tail. And we're going to fill this with some baking soda. And super glue. I like the thin because it spreads better on the bait. I'm going to carve this down to a more streamlined shape now. Especially that tail section. I want as much water to get to that prop as possible. So did quite a bit of cutting off camera. This is the general shape I'm going to go with. Of course, it's faceted from the knife cuts, but I'm going to sand it all down to get it smooth. I might use the belt sander, but not in an actual belt sander. I'm just going to clamp it in my vise and run it back and forth to get it round, because I feel like a round bait will plop a little better than a square one. So I'm going to go do that, also off camera, because nobody wants to watch me sand things. There we go, sanded smooth, and it's ready for sealing. I'm just going to use super glue to seal this. I'm going to do my best to not get this propeller glued at all. Wish me luck on that. I discovered if you put a little bit of packing tape on your thumb or your finger, it doesn't adhere to the super glue, and you can rub it in and not have to worry about a gluey finger. Wonderful. There we go, all sealed up and ready for the base clear coat to smooth everything out. I'm going to put UV resin on it, and that's what I will paint on when I begin airbrushing. Swinging in the UV. Alright, starting with opaque white. I've got the bait all taped up. And we'll put a nice even coat of that. So when I last left you guys, I had painted this white and I put it in the UV. I put it in the UV again because it was kind of bumpy. I wasn't really happy with the way that the finish came out. So I did another coat. So now there's white under this clear coat. And I'm going to begin the actual paint process. We're going to hit the first color with a neon pink mixed with a little bit of this pearl white. And the way that I do that is I put it in my airbrush, a couple of drops, and then I'll mix it with an actual paintbrush in the cup. I keep this brush off to the side for mixing paint in the brush, and I try to keep it as clean as I can so that way any colors that I mix up will go in it smoothly. So in here is 2 drops of the pink, 2 drops of the pearl white, and 2 drops of 4011 reducer, which I really like for pearlized paint. I feel like it does a very good job of reducing pearlized stuff. And we're going to bring it up the side of the bait a little bit too. And I just want that to give it a kind of a pink hue, not overly pink. Put that white in there to kind of reduce it down a little bit and not be, too in your face. The next color I'm pulling out is a nice orange, and that's just going to go on the belly. Make sure I get the water out of the brush before I spray. And it's going to come up a little bit on the bait, but that's okay. I'm going to cover all that over with some other colors. We're going to hit the bait with a combination of this blue and white together. I do a little bit more white than blue, and it's going to give me a very, very light blue, which will represent the gill of the bluegill. You can kind of see in there, it's a sky blue almost. Looking good so far. And the next color I'm going to use is this green gold. I really like this paint. It's very expensive, but it's fantastic. When you first spray it, it's going to come out yellow rather than green. Almost a chartreusey color. But as you add more layers, it becomes more and more green. One of my favorite colors is this wicked moss green, detail moss green. It's transparent. It doesn't shoot very well out of my brush, but I really like the color, so I use it pretty often. You didn't see that. Now I've put a mesh around the bait And at this point, I'm going to do bluegill bars, and I want you to wish me luck because I never know how these are going to turn out. I could use a stencil, but for this one, I'm going to freehand it, and we'll just roll with it. I have sepia in the brush. It went okay. I'm going to go over that sepia now with a smoke black. And here we go with the scale reveal. Let's see how these turned out. They're okay. Could use some work, but we've got the idea. So I'm going to darken up these lines and give that little eye area a little darkness for when I put the eye on. Darkened up the top. Looking a lot better and a lot more defined now. And the final color I'm going to airbrush is this copper gold. And I'm going to spray it from far away with just some mesh laid over it gently. I barely had any of that in the brush, but I didn't really need much because that is going to do a lot. Really brings out that pattern over the black. And the last thing I'm going to do is put some hand brushing work on this for the bluegill dot. About the same spot on either side. Fish can't look at both sides at a time. They probably won't even look at any but the bottom. So I will put a dot here at the back. And at the top. Not that they'll ever see the one at the top. And the reason I do that is because in all of the underwater footage I've looked at of bluegill, they have these prominent black spots on their rear fins that nobody seems to account for in any other paint job, but I do. And I don't know if it'll help, but I don't think it'll hurt. And off camera, I super glued some stick-on eyes, which is my own personal nightmare because these tweezers suck, these eyes suck, the whole process kind of sucks. But they're on there, and I've got black paint all over me now. Ugh! So I'm going to take the tape off and put it back in the UV chamber once all of my dots dry. The reason why I take the tape off is because the UV and the tape don't seem to get along at all. The tape will stay on the bait forever, and we don't want that. We want this propeller to spin nice and free. So we will remove that, put it in the UV, let it hang, and hope for the best.